So as long as it's fair, as long as it's voluntary, inequality is fine. Inequality is great. We want those who succeed to be more rewarded than those who destroy value. But in the sense of our current environment, we have really sinister inequality.
If everybody, if the water's flowing and everyone is benefiting, right, everyone's cup is filled, people are happy, right? They have better things to do than to line up outside of someone's house and threaten to chop their head off.
I don't think we should be setting up guillotines anywhere, and that's why I love Bitcoin. It's the peaceful revolution, right? But why do people want to set up these guillotines? Because they know the system isn't working. It's not working for them, and despite working very hard at many jobs and climbing the ladders, it's still the prospects for retirement, even the ability to afford a home today, is just it's outside of the reach of so many very hardworking Americans. The system is not serving them. The system stratifies wealth through asset inflation and in disproportionate access to assets.
Hello and welcome to the Tucson Blockchain Podcast, and today I have on Ali Hamam from the Tahinis restaurant chain in Ontario, Canada. Ali decided with his partners to convert a large portion of the company's reserve cash into Bitcoin, and we have a conversation about why he chose to do this, about money around the world, hyperinflation in Egypt, and what it's like to be a business owner. This was an awesome interview, and I really enjoyed it. I hope you do too. Alrighty, and we're recording. Welcome, Ali, to the Tucson Blockchain Podcast.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah. So you're tuning in from London, Ontario, which is pretty close to the U.S. border, just right above Ohio. So yeah, you're the owner, and you run the Tahini restaurant chain.
Yep.
So what is it exactly that you do for them?
So we run a franchise business, a restaurant franchise business here in London, Ontario. We make Middle Eastern and Mediterranean cuisine. We started with one restaurant, grew it into 2, 3, 4, and then we switched it to a franchise model. And now we have 4 franchisees lined up for the coming year. One is about to open actually this week, so it's pretty exciting. And yeah, we make the best shawarmas, falafels, kebabs you can think of. And recently, we've made an announcement that we've switched to a Bitcoin standard, and it's working out pretty good for us. And we're excited to share that with people and share the benefits of doing a move like that for medium businesses and small businesses. And yeah, man, super pumped about it.
Yeah, it's the new trend that I don't think very many people saw coming. I think people were focused more on like hedge funds and banks getting into it, and not as much on smaller, medium-sized businesses. So yeah, does your business accept Bitcoin, or do you just store your extra cash in it?
Yeah, so we don't view Bitcoin as a payments technology. We think there's a lot better solutions for payments that are cheaper and more efficient, and fiat is just more efficient to use as payments method because it's not as volatile as Bitcoin is. So us going on a Bitcoin standard doesn't mean we accept or pay any of our employees in Bitcoin. It means that we will continue to operate in fiat in wherever country we are open in, and we'll have a safe net of working capital for say 6 months, and then whatever extra cash that we have on top of that, that is considered our treasury, and we basically take that and convert it into Bitcoin.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, we really think it's a savings technology more than anything. Like, it's not meant to be, at least from my opinion, some people might disagree with that, but it's not, I don't think its main use case is for it to be used that way. I think it's way better at using it as a store of wealth than it is a payment method. So
Sure. Yeah, especially now as the price is so volatile and it's really has a small market cap. So yeah, how did you get to Canada? I know you've lived around a little bit.
yeah, so I grew up in between Egypt and Saudi Arabia. My father worked in Saudi Arabia as a math professor, and but we're like Egyptian origins, so we kind of lived between both countries, and mostly in Egypt though. My father would come like in his holidays and spend the summers with us, and then go back to work in Saudi. And I basically grew up there. I went to university there, and I graduated in 2010. And then 2011 hit, and the Arab Spring happened, and we had the biggest revolution in Egyptian history in January of 2011. And we got to witness that. Me and my brother were part of that revolution from day one. We went out on the streets. We marched with the protesters. We faced riot police. We got hit with tear gas, and squads of riot police like surrounded us and tried to like separate the protesters and stuff like that. And eventually the will of the people was stronger, and we overthrew President Mubarak at the time. And after the revolution, we pretty much decided that we wanted to start our careers in Canada. So we're all originally like Canadian citizens. We've all had dual citizenship our whole lives, because my father got his PhD from Canada. So my father was the original immigrant to Canada. And then we figured, the Egypt's not going to be the same after this. It'll be better if we start our careers in Canada. And that's what we did. So we hopped on a plane and we got here. We all came except my father. My father and my parents, both of them, they wanted to retire. And then when they wanted to move their wealth from Egypt to Canada, they were faced with the capital controls, and they couldn't move their money from the banks over there, which was very unfortunate, and it forced my father to work an extra 6 years in Saudi Arabia to fund their retirement home here in Canada. And that was a first experience to us of capital controls and what it can do to a family. My father basically worked for 5 years from 2012 to 2017. 2017, it became a little bit easier to move capital around, but during those 5 years, we all witnessed the Egyptian pound drop 65% against the US dollar. And luckily, my parents had their wealth between real estate and fiat, but they still saw their fiat savings get devalued at that rate within the span of 5 years. And that's a whole life's work, man. Like, that's devastating like a devastating blow for anyone. And then yeah, so to me, that kind of is a backstory and a framework to understand the value that Bitcoin provides, both from the inflation side of it and the ability to move your money wherever you want. And that's why Bitcoin, I think, provides a ton of value to communities wherever you are, especially immigrant communities. They were not the first people that went through this. I'm sure there's like hundreds of thousands of people that went through the same thing. So yeah, that's why we decided to, one of the reasons why we went on a Bitcoin standard, and that's why we're trying to be public about it and try to show people the value that it can bring to their lives, their families, their businesses, and yeah, hopefully people can listen.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty compelling story. In the United States, I think people have a lack of understanding of what money is and how fragile the financial system is, and do not have the perspective that you and your family have of what it's like to be told by a bank that, you know, you don't really have control over your money and you can't withdraw it. And Bitcoin definitely offers a very unique way to go about things, because you can self-custody it and you can take a hardware wallet or your iPhone and move your wealth across borders very easily, whether it's just sending it to someone or carrying it with you, whereas you can't do that with government currencies, which are really limited by borders. Um, what we'll talk a little bit about, you know, capital controls and hyperinflation in a little bit, but what have been some of the most difficult parts about being an immigrant moving from Egypt to Canada?
So honestly, that was easy, man. Canada is a great country. The Canadians here are amazing, super nice, super friendly. Uh, all the communities here, we feel that they value a person by what he's contributing to the community, and it doesn't really matter where you're from, who you are, what's your name, whatever. So we we share the same feeling, and we try to bring value to our community the best we can. And the way we decided to do that is through food, right? We try to feed people good food, and the support that we got from the London community here in Ontario has been amazing. We love this community more than they know, and it was an easy transition, man. We love Canada. We I think of myself more of a Canadian than I am a Egyptian by a big degree. So that tells a lot about um, what our experience has been.
That's awesome. Yeah. It I know Canada definitely has different sentiments on immigration than some places in the U.S., where it's just, my brother works with immigrants and refugees, and the policies that they have to work with just to live here legally are just absurd sometimes. Um, so yeah, so what were the capital controls like, and how did that impact your family in Egypt?
So yeah, basically your money is you when you want to move big sums of money, and I'm not meaning $500 or a couple $1,000. Any meaningful amount of money, you have to go through your bank, and then here it's not a big of an issue in like Western countries, Europe, and so on. But when you go to countries in the Middle East or Africa or Asia, like or even South America, and you go through the banks, you're faced with the realization that the banks have full control of your money, and it's not your money to move wherever you want. And that's something that I think a lot of people here take for granted. Um, and yeah, the banks basically just said, no, we can't do it. You can only move like $1,000 a month, something like that, something like ridiculous. And yeah, man, like it's just a big no to move your money. And uh, I think the ability to move your wealth wherever you want is a human right that everybody in the world should have. And Bitcoin provides that and gives you that freedom to move your money wherever you want.
Yeah. The way that the banking system is set up is it's essentially a monopoly that we don't really have and it's growing ever increasingly more as cash is becoming less of a part of our society, but you don't have the ability to self-custody. You know, if I'm to send you money, I would have to use a payment service from bank account to bank account, whereas Bitcoin is a service that allows you to send money via peer-to-peer transactions. I can send it to your wallet from my wallet without any sort of payment processor, and that's really, really special and unique, and is shifting things up. Like, you have control of your wealth and property, whereas we didn't have that option before. So yeah, I mean, that would make sense to me why cash would lose its appeal to you. As well as what the central banks are doing with printing kind of universally across the world.
Yeah, like I don't think what happened in the Middle Eastern countries or South American countries or any other country for that matter is going to happen in the States or Canada. They're not the same country. That's not what we think. But what we're saying is this, like having the same monetary system will eventually lead to that road, right? Hyperinflation and strict capital controls. And as a person that saw that with my own eyes, it's something that is that can tear a family apart. And Bitcoin is beautiful because it protects you from both hyperinflation and capital controls. So it does both of these things and a lot more, to be honest. So yeah, like we just hope nobody goes through that. And we see right now as an opportunity to step up as a medium-sized business and tell other businesses that right now is a great opportunity to front run the coming wave of corporate buying of Bitcoin, because it's going to happen whether you like it or not, right? We've all seen it. We've seen MicroStrategy buy $425 million of Bitcoin. We've seen Square, Paul Tudor Jones, other hedge funds, like they're all coming, right? And the beauty is that now you can act quickly and move and have that same playing field as all of these big corporations do. And you simply just got to do one thing: you buy and hold Bitcoin. So that's a huge benefit that and a huge advantage that normal folks never had before, right? Um, like just as an example, like you couldn't invest in Uber, for example, when it was an up and coming company, right? You had to have institutional grade investing license, and you have to be connected, and you have to meet the right people in the right time, and Bitcoin just levels the playing field for everyone. Everyone can participate. Everyone can be a part of this, and nobody controls Bitcoin.
Yeah, there's definitely in the current monetary system, there's definitely different sets of rules for different people. When you're closer to the money printer, the regulator, or the legislator, you have advantages to the compared to the normal person. Um, and yeah, I mean, to not have your wealth completely confiscated from you through inflation is huge for the normal person to be able to just like put it in something that's verifiably scarce and that you can audit and know that you actually own. Um, Unlike putting money in the bank, it's because when something bad happens, it might not be there. Um, so yeah, what are some things that got you really excited about Bitcoin when you first got into it, other than what we talked about already?
So when we came out with our announcement, um, we view Bitcoin as a free, true savings technology that stores wealth across time and space. And what we mean by that is that, first of all, it's free in the meaning that nobody controls it, and like you don't pay a subscription to own Bitcoin or anything like that. Um, and it's voluntary, right? Like it's out of your own free will to buy or sell Bitcoin, and nobody controls that, right? And it's true in the sense that the whole world can verify that I own my Bitcoin, and my Bitcoin hasn't moved around, right? And it's also true in that I can verify the entire Bitcoin network and its claims and its promises with a satellite dish sitting in the Sahara Desert somewhere, right? So it's true in that sense. And it's a savings technology in the meaning that, like, the idea of savings, if you think about it, Alex, it's engraved in us since we start earning our first dollars or first whatever, right? By a piggy bank. You know, you take what you make, you put it in the piggy bank, and you store it for later, and you expect it to come out the same. But the problem we have is the piggy banks of the world don't operate like that. Okay? The piggy banks of the world, where we all put our money in, they have holes in the back. Okay? And they reach in, they take your money, and they lend it out to A, B, C, D, and whoever. And that's what's known as fractional reserve banking. Okay? And by doing that, you're essentially give them power to print more money. And let me elaborate on that. So when you go take a mortgage for a house, right? You take $1 million loan to buy a house, and then you pay it within 30 years. You're probably paying around 1.3 to 1.4 million within a 30-year period, right? You just allowed that bank to print that extra 300 400,000 within a span of 30 years, right? And that's adding to the total money supply, right? And at a scale of trillions, all banks around the world are doing this, and that's, we run on a debt economy. That's just how it works. So just by participating in the debt economy, you're allowing the money supply to go up, and which ends like leads to devaluing your money that's in the bank. Okay, not to add the central bank printing that's thrown on there as well. Okay, so basically your money is being messed with left, right, and center, and it's not even under your full control, right? So Bitcoin is a savings technology because it's encrypted and it doesn't allow anyone to mess with your money. It brings back the original idea of the piggy bank, right? The essence of the piggy bank is really brought by Bitcoin, right? Whereas if you put $100,000 today, you expect the value of it to stay the same, not the amount, the value of that money to stay the same, in like 10 or 15, 20 years, okay, if not increase. So it's a savings technology in that sense. And then it stores wealth across time because it's fixed, right? And when you think about that, like if you have a fixed base money, right? And the whole world like becomes more productive, right? You're more productive, Alex, with your work. I'm more productive. We open a ton of more tahini restaurants, and global trade is just increasing. Just people are producing more, right? If you have a fixed base money supply, right? That money supply is basically the value of the future productivity of the planet discounted back to the present. Does that make sense? Right?
Yeah.
So it's beautiful in that way because it's fixed. We've never had any type of money that has absolute scarcity. That's what Bitcoin brings, right? That absolute scarcity. Even with gold, you might think gold is like limited. No, it's not. They're printing it at a 2%, like supply of gold is increasing at a 2% rate every year, right? So yes, it's scarce, but it's not 100% fixed. And no matter what you do, you can't produce more Bitcoin, no matter how many billions of dollars you put into it. Okay, so it stores money across time. And then also, Bitcoin goes through these halving functions, right, which happens every 4 years, where the incoming supply of Bitcoin gets cut in half. Okay, and what that leads to is it leads to an exponential decay in the money supply of Bitcoin. An exponential decay. A lot of people like underestimate exponential calculations, right? So to sum it up, basically it means that it increases your purchasing power, right? So not only does it store your value, but it also increases your value because it increases the purchasing power through that halving function, right? So that's why it stores wealth across time. And then across space, because you have full control to do whatever you want with your money, with your wealth. You can move it wherever you want without any capital controls or without anything. You're just like, you don't have to go through what I've seen, right? Nobody should go through that. People's like entire wealth are just evaporating right now all over the world, and people are turning a blind eye to it, right? Look at Lebanon right now. Look what's happening there, right? They're going through hyperinflation. I have Lebanese employees here, and they can't move their money out of Lebanon, and their currency's going to shit, right? So it stores your money across space, and all of these uh, characteristics is is why we think Bitcoin is more than just an investment. It's a savings technology, and that's way more valuable than just an investment. And we hope that people see that, and we hope to try help people see that. And we're trying with our Twitter, and we love when when people invite us over to speak in podcasts and wherever, because we really think the value that this is going to bring humanity is huge. But people have to do their homework, right? They have to educate themselves, learn, adapt to the technology, right? We're living in the digital age, Alex, right? If people don't want to adapt, they're just going to be left behind, right? And what we're being faced with right now is literally a flood of money and liquidity by central banks. And people might think this flood of money is nice, and oh, I'm getting money, free money, but eventually they're going to drown in it, right? And because Bitcoin has all these characteristics, it serves as the best arc to float on top of this liquidity.
Yeah, that's an awesome explanation. There's so much to unpack in there. What we're seeing across the world right now in the country is restaurants specifically getting hit really hard, especially smaller restaurants, due to the shutdowns um, and lack of support around that, and not having the cash reserves that are necessary because of our inflationary money system. And I think Bitcoin really stands to benefit those people. And that's what I love about how active you are on Twitter with the Tahinis restaurant account is how I found you, because I thought that was just like such a compelling story. And yeah, it's pretty wild to think that right now some of the people that have the advantage are the people that are able to see how fragile everything is. And like you're talking about, adaptability is huge in a time like this. Things are changing. The relationship between people and government is changing. The relationship between us and the media is changing. Information flows are changing. And being unwilling to adapt is really dangerous, because if you're unwilling to adapt in a situation of crisis, like if there's a tsunami coming and you're unwilling to leave your house, like bad things are going to happen. And essentially, like what's happened with our monetary system and has been happening is there's a tsunami coming for us, and we have to get out somehow. So yeah, so say there's a business owner that wants to get into Bitcoin and finds what you're saying pretty interesting. Where would you suggest for them to start?
So first, I would suggest that they learn about Bitcoin and buy it for themselves with their personal money. Just there's so much content out there by the Bitcoin community now that it makes it a lot easier to learn this stuff. Like we're a class of 2020. We're new to this space, right? We came into Bitcoin, me personally, in March, and so we're fresh, right? So I really recommend. I really think that people should first learn, and I would recommend 3 books if you want to get started. First book is The Bitcoin Standard by Saifedean Ammous, and you need to read that to learn about money, about what is money, right? And then the second book is The Internet of Money by Andreas Antonopoulos. And you need to read that to learn about the technology behind Bitcoin. And then the third book we recommend is The Price of Tomorrow by Jeff Booth.
Mm.
And you need to read that to learn where the future is headed. And when you read these three books, they kind of come at it from different angles, and they give like an enlightenment moment, like a aha moment, and everything clicks. And then trust me, if people listening read these three books and stop there, I don't think they will. There's so much content out there. Robert Breedlove does amazing articles on Bitcoin. BJ Boyapati, Lynn Alden, you name it. There's just Parker Lewis. You just have to do the research and read and learn, and then do it yourself. And then the more confidence you have in what you've learned, you'll be able to make the decision of moving your company's reserves into Bitcoin, and you'll sleep at night better knowing that you did. So that's just my advice to business owners.
Yeah. The all of those books that you mentioned were pretty good foundations to build off of. I like how you said the Bitcoin Standard is a lot more about money than it is specifically about Bitcoin. Saifedean doesn't. Yeah.
That's 80% of it just talks about money. It doesn't talk about Bitcoin really.
Yeah.
Right. So and I didn't know what money was before I read that book. So and a lot of people don't, and it doesn't matter how smart you are or what's your profession, you need to have an open mind about this, because the idea that we've learned about money our whole lives was wrong. And I know it sounds radical and crazy, but it's true. And you need to at least have the curiosity to verify whether that's true or not, because it's important for your health and for your family's health and for your well-being. So just do it.
Absolutely. I mean, money touches every aspect of our lives and has major influences, and it's not taught. We're not taught what money is. I had Guy Swan on the podcast, and he explained money to most people is kind of like water to fish. You don't really ever think about it. You just think about what it does for you. Oh, I can buy some good food at Tahinis with it, or whatever. Most people don't understand the implications of what happens when a government prints trillions of dollars, or like you were talking about earlier, a bank expands the money supply through issuance of credit, and what that does to people's daily life. One of the things that I found really compelling in Saifedean's book was the idea of money impacting all aspects of life, like mental health, issues with drug abuse, and stuff like that. And he talked about inflationary money being a causation of a lot of those things because of time preference. And one of the things that you mentioned earlier is Bitcoin changes your time preference. It's looking into the future, preserving your wealth over decades rather than just days or weeks. How has Bitcoin changed your time preference?
That's a great question, Alex. And so for me personally, Bitcoin has, added more purpose to my life and my career by giving value to the work that I do, right? When and most people go through this right now with um, the current, money system, is that because your money is inflated away, but you're not seeing it, doesn't mean you don't know it, right? So for example, if I give you $1,000 and I tell you that's all what you're gonna have for, forever, and every month or every day I come and steal a penny from your pocket, right? Over time, you're just gonna start feeling depressed, right? Because you're being stolen from, but your your pocket doesn't have a hole in it or anything, right? Like, but you're still being stolen from. So what people compensate with is that, okay, you know what? It's getting devalued anyway, so I might as well just spend it, right? So that's just a basic idea of why I think more people love to spend more money, is because uh, that that insidious way that inflation works is that it steals the money that you earn, and like you have right now, Bitcoin is that option out of that system, right? And it perfectly stores your wealth, and it makes you think about the future because it does that, because it stores your wealth across time. So you like me, I am more upbeat, and I come to work tap dancing every day because I know the value that I'm going to create today is going to store across time and space. And I don't care about buying, whoever else is buying, the Ferraris and the Lamborghinis, or I don't care about any of that. Okay, because I just buy the stuff that I need and I want for myself. I'm not influenced by any other outside forces that tell me what I think and should do, because this is my hard-earned money, and this is money that's gonna increase over time, and I don't want to just spend my money on things that don't add meaning to my life. So it added a lot of just zen and calmness and peace to my life, and I think it does the same to a lot of people. I've heard so many people talk about that. It made me like healthier and work out more and care about my long-term health. So yeah, man, like Bitcoin just changes you in every way.
Yeah, absolutely. It it gives a time preference is a huge thing, and giving us a different perspective on the world, and committing to the long term future, being willing to build things rather just than consume things. And I've noticed for myself, I don't really play video games anymore, and I don't binge watch shows as much because of it's nice to have a sense of meaning and purpose when um, that you're not constantly getting screwed. I think that can be kind of a depressing thing to have in the back of your head, um, and instead to see hope for the future is, especially in a time that's as chaotic and crazy as right now. That's such an important thing to have, is that hope and purpose. Um, so yeah. Do you guys have any plans to expand into the US or outside of Canada right now?
So yeah, we'd love to, man. Like we're open for franchising right now. We have 4 franchisees um, set up for the next year, like I said, in Ontario here, and we hope that after the fifth or the sixth, we'd expand outside of Ontario, whether it's to the United States or to other provinces in Canada. We think that we've built a successful business model, and a profitable business model to anybody that wants to own a business. And yeah, we spent years developing this thing. We hashed out all the little details. Um, we have everything down to a process, and it just works. It works like clockwork, and we maximize the profits as much as we can. And at the end of the day, we just make amazing food, right? Um, so people love that. So we'll try to expand everywhere. And I actually think Bitcoin is going to also help us in that process because um, who knows? Like, I think personally that we'll be able to build and um, like construct a whole restaurant from scratch with just one Bitcoin in the future, right? Or
Yeah.
less. So, so yeah, we're excited about the future, and hopefully we can bring a lot of value to a lot of people.
Yeah. I know you mentioned in one of your other podcasts you were on that you kind of brought your partners down the Bitcoin rabbit hole with you. Have your employees also found interest in Bitcoin and started benefiting from it?
Yeah, I don't talk to them about it a lot. I mean, if they ask me, then I will, but uh, it's not interesting to them at this point. They see our social medias, they see what we talk about and what we're doing, but um, if you're not going to have an interest in coming and asking us about this, like we're public about everything that we say, but um, yeah, like you have to have that curiosity, right? But our employees, not no, not one of them came and kind of asked about it and told us that he was in it too, which was kind of exciting. But other than that one employee, no one else no one else did it. Our community, on the other hand, they um, they asked us a lot about it. Um, they think we're crazy, right? They think we're reckless, uh, incompetent, all of the things like um, you can think of, and we we try to help with our social media to try to educate people on Bitcoin because um, like that's one of my goals on Twitter is um, having people go down a rabbit hole and try to understand things for themselves and then come ask us why did you guys do this transition, right? um, we can easily just ignore them and hold our Bitcoin and just sit back and relax, right? But we believe the value that it brings to communities are huge, right? And especially, for example, like the Muslim community around the world. Um, I'm part of the Muslim community here in Canada, and I I think they're like one of the like most educated and hardworking people that I've ever met. They're all my friends are like doctors and lawyers and dentists and they're very educated people, but I don't think they understand money all that well. And it's okay. I didn't understand it either. But now that I do, I have this obligation that I want to tell people about it, right? And I don't know if you knew this about the Muslim community, Alex, but we have like it's against our religious teachings to use interest at all, and that's one of the core like principles. So what the reality that we're living in is that we live in a debt economy and interest is everywhere, right? So you add on top of that the situation that we're in, where, like you said, inflation is sneaking up on people, and they think it's the 2% that, news articles and everybody on CNBC talks about, but it's a lot. It's not the 2%. It's not the CPI. The inflation is actually running at a 10 to 20% rate every year, because you're not putting in that CPI basket the like real estate, treasury stocks, healthcare, education, all of that. If you have a basket of just these things, you're gonna see what the inflation rate is, right? So the inflation rate, that's the CPI, is manipulated because the variables in the CPI are changing. So what's that mean? Inflation is at a 10 to 20%. It means that your retirement is running away from you at a rate of 10 to 20% per year, which means that in order to keep up, you have to earn an extra 10 to 20% every year for the rest of your life just to keep up. That's not going to happen. That doesn't happen to anyone, right? And that's the situation that we're in. Okay, so people in the Muslim community, and I don't want to just hold it just to people in the Muslim community. Everybody's faced with this problem, really, right? But the options are very few, right? One is stick with your principles. Don't get any debt. Don't get into the debt economy at all. Work and save your money in cash, and then end up not having enough money to retire, because you're getting poorer every year, right? So that's that option. That's not a good option, right? Option number two is embrace the debt economy with everything. Load up on a ton of debt, and then spend the rest of your life paying off these debts, and then not having enough to retire at the end, right? So that's not a good option. And option number three is become a stock market wizard and figure out buy all the Apples and Amazons and Netflixes right when they started, and try to get it all right, and maybe you'll catch on. Good luck with that. That's not going to happen, right? And that's not even an option for most people in the world, right? That's not an option for people living in like Africa or the Middle East or Asia, or it's just not. So all the options are bad, right? And Bitcoin is the solution that will go on a Bitcoin standard, because you will have that arc that we talked about that will save you and your family, right? And it will float on top of whatever the inflation rate is, right? If you take what you earn and save it in Bitcoin, your money, your value of your money is going to be safe because it floats on top, right? So every year, 10 to 20% inflation rate, Bitcoin is just going to stay ahead of that. Okay, so I think people can resonate with that, and also the fact that you get to have control of your money. It's something truly amazing, and it will save a lot of people's lives. They only have to learn and understand it. And yeah, hopefully they listen to this and they share it with friends and family, and the word gets around.
Yeah. I mean, I think that one of the things that I was thinking when you were talking earlier about your community versus your perspective is entrepreneurs have a very different perspective on money and the world in general. A lot of people want to just go get a job and do what's secure, but entrepreneurs are problem solvers. That you look at issues and try and fix them, and so you're kind of prone, if you're that type of thinker, to be on the cutting edge as far as whatever the solutions are. And that's probably a bit of why there's a disconnect between what's happening or what your community thinks about what you're doing and your opinion on it. As far as the Muslim community, when you talk about being forbidden to have interest, is that just specifically with lending, or is that earning interest too?
So it's for both. And what most people end up doing is that they actually forget about this principle and they embrace the debt economy anyways. And because there's no other way. If you don't do that, you're just gonna be poor for the rest of your life, right? So you give away your principles just to give your family a good lifestyle, right? And you know, the beauty about Bitcoin and the benefit that I think it brings to the Muslim community is that you don't have to, forgo your principles, and you'll be able to give your family the lifestyle that you made for them, right? And the one that they deserve. So it really solves more than one problem for the Muslim community, and hopefully they can see that as well.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a very compelling message. I mean, I think what inevitably happens in the fiat monetary system is that we're forced to operate in a way that our values are compromised to an extent, because just the way that it's set up, where it's kind of like a rule. Well, certain people have certain rules that benefit them against others, and it really is. I think there's a huge rise and a compelling message coming from people that are a little bit more socialistic, because it's one of the few places that's really like addressing that issue and trying to solve the inequality. Now, I think we both might see some issues with some of that, but and see Bitcoin as more of a solution. But yeah, I mean, it's amazing to be able to have that type of money that allows us to really, like you said, experience freedom to be who we are and live within our value system, rather than being beholden to all these people that have no concern for our communities, and just us in general. Well, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Where can people find you on social media and stuff?
Yeah, so people can follow us on Twitter at The Real Tahinis. We're also on all of the social media platforms by just Tahinis Restaurants, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, you name it. We're everywhere. And if people want to reach out to us, I'd say Twitter is probably one of the best platforms if you're thinking about, talking about Bitcoin, or potentially opening up a franchisee with us. And you can reach us there. And I want to thank everybody for their support. Honestly, like the Bitcoin community, you guys have been awesome the whole way. Like we didn't expect this at all, and I definitely appreciate that. Hopefully we can have that same attitude to everybody that comes in the future, because it meant a lot for us, right? they can be a little defensive from the outside before you engage with them. You know how it is, right? Like they seem a little crazy at first, but once you get to know them, and they're one of the most educated and smartest communities that I've seen. So thank you to everyone, and thank you, Alex.
Yeah, and hopefully somebody listening wants to open up a franchise here in Tucson, because and I just went on your guys' YouTube page, and you have some videos of the food, and it looks so unbelievably good.
Thank you.
But yeah, if I'm ever up in Canada and Ontario, I'll make sure to stop by one of the restaurants.
Absolutely, 100%, man, and it'll be on me, of course, and I'll be happy to sit down with you and break bread.
That'd be awesome. Well,
Yeah.
thanks for stopping by.
My pleasure.
That was a really fun interview, and I wasn't really kidding. Their food looks absolutely amazing, and I made my mouth water a bit, and I wish that I could go eat at the restaurant. And if I ever make it up to Ontario, Canada, I know that will be one of the first places that I go. But yeah, it was fun, and he had a really good perspective on what it's like to be a business owner, and had a really cool perspective on Bitcoin. And I look forward to seeing what he does in the future with his business, because I think they're going to be really successful. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the podcast, and if you want to support the channel, you can support me on Patreon or donate Bitcoin to me. And yeah, best thing to do though is to leave a review, like, comment, subscribe, etc. Yeah, have a good one.